It is September, November 3rd, almost end of the year. Went past pretty quick. This is your man, Sir Earl, episode number 37. Check it in from the It's My World podcast. We have a pretty good day in Chicago. Our summer went kind of quick. It normally only lasts 3 days. I think we had 2 days. The past few days, it's been extremely gloomy, extremely cold. Nothing like it's going to get December, January, but Chicago is a great place to be. You got to love it if you live here. We live for the summers, even though it's 2, 3 days. But it kind of changed overnight. But today is pretty nice, pretty nice. Sun is shining. It's not too cold, nice and crisp, just like I like it. Not too windy. It's a great day. Let's get started with this podcast, all right? One of the things that triggered my thoughts on this podcast is when I was released from the hospital not too long ago with pneumonia and high blood pressure and blood sugar and no oxygen and all these things that they came up with. And everybody, ever since I've been out the hospital, everybody's been telling me, "Oh, take it easy, slow down, don't work so hard, get your rest, blah 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 blah." I've been hearing it all over the place. What the subject that I wanted to discuss today is it's a subject called "It's not what you're running to, it's what you're running from." And my motivation to work very hard comes from the fact that I come from a background that I would not wish on anybody and wish to never live it again. And that's what wakes me every day. I live a pretty good life now, and I want to continue to live the good life. I made a life for my kids to grow up in the suburbs. I grew up. If you're ever looking at it, if you're not from here, if you're from another state, you look up Chicago, look up the South Side, look up Inglewood. 70, 80% of what you hear as far as murders and shootings and stabbing that go on, they come from that part of town. And I grew up in the midst of all that. So it's definitely an area that you grew up in that does not provide a lot of hope for people. It's a very violent place. You're lucky when they say 98% of the people from bad situations end up either dead or in jail. That's probably the place that they had in mind. 98% of the people I grew up with either dead or in prison for long terms. And I was running right alongside. It's a difference between growing up there and growing up there. I grew up there. I ran the streets. I gang banged. I went through the penal system. I did all those things. Growing up, how I did. We grew up very poor. My first memories are of living with my great grandmother, where it was 9 of us living in a 2 bedroom apartment, which it was the same as in Inglewood. It was roach and rat infested, 9 people, 2 bedroom apartment. Just briefly, I was a part of or in the house to witness probably 2 or 3 different home invasions, robbery, murder, rape. All those things were commonplace. It didn't surprise us at all. My great grandmother would receive her SSI check the first or the 15th, depending on your last name. And that's when you did all the shopping for the month. But that also was the time when you were at most risk to be robbed or home invasion or something like that, because they knew at that time there was money in the house, because although it wasn't much, it was probably more than what they had. And you were always at risk around that time to be, like I said, robbed, or someone breaks into your house or something like that. And so we were always aware of that. T- you know, Everything was rationed off. You'd get 1 or 2 cookies to eat each day. You'd get 1 bag of chips. They had a certain amount of Kool Aid that if you went over, it would expire. You wouldn't have any more for the next shopping time, which was the following month. You ate what was made and put on the table. Meat, in terms of eating sandwich, was a luxury. So you grew up eating sugar sandwiches, ketchup sandwiches, mayonnaise sandwiches, things that involve bread and no meat. It was a very poor experience, but I always have this saying that life happens for you, it doesn't happen to you. Growing up how I did and where I did, it built a lot of character, it built a lot of appreciation, it built a lot of humility, which are things that now it comes into play more so because I know what it was like to start from nothing. When I say I started from the bottom, I started from the gutter. That's not an exaggeration. That's where we started, and to make it from there with no high school education, no college education, to be living in your own house, to own your own business, to be pretty successful at what you do. There's a long way to go, but I've come from a long way. Those are things that I am very appreciative of, and I'm very humbled that my God saw fit to allow me to experience and live those things when so many friends that I had wound up dead or in prison for long stretches, and I'm very humbled by that. Um, so it did a lot for me, not to me. But when I wake up every day, the drive that I have, it stems from the memories of that, from growing up like that, and never wanting to return to that in no shape, form, or fashion. So it's like a speed limit on the expressway. You get on the expressway, it says do 55. You do 55. You don't drive 30 and say, well, hey, I'm taking it easy. You do what the speed limit says, if not more. And that's kind of how I live my life. I know one way to work and to accomplish the things that I have, and that's to get up every day and work like there's no tomorrow because, as we all know, we're not promised tomorrow. So there could not be, you could wake up and uh, the next day not, and there's no tomorrow. I've lost a lot of friends. I lost my cousin. I lost my dad. I lost my son. I recently lost my best friend of 45 years, where we were together every day of our life from the time I was in fourth grade until, recently when he moved to Minnesota. But, those realities let me know that we're not promised tomorrow. So I don't believe, although, people mean well to say, hey, slow down, I have 1 year, and that's 110%. So when I wake up every day, other than, waking up, doing my meditation, doing my prayers, doing the things that put me in a positive state of mind, once those things are done, it's go time. And that's just, I'm striving to get to a certain point, and that point is to be the greatest at what I do. I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave something for my kids to say, hey, look, my dad worked hard, and he left this or he left that, money, businesses, real estate, whatever it may be. But I just don't understand or see how you take it easy, how you sit back and you do nothing, how you take your foot off the gas, how you don't push to achieve 110% of something on an everyday basis. I don't quite understand how you do that. I only know one way to work, and that's to get up and get it done. And the other people that I know that work hard, that get up and they do what has to be done, maybe what they're running from is not that bad. I had a client who grew up in South Beach, had money, and all those things. So maybe that memory is not so horrible that it's not that bad. It's not. Hey, if I had to return to South Beach with parents that had a lot of money and I lived a great life and all those things, maybe I don't have to get up and work harder. Some people feel they do, and to them, maybe they do. To me, I come from nowhere. I come from the gutter. I come from where you shared a house with rats and roaches, and we were at a point at one point in our lives that if you opened up a box of cereal, you were allowed one bowl of cereal a day, and it was rationed off of that. If you open up a box of cereal and saw a roach in there, which pretty much happens every day, or did back then, you remove the roach and you eat your cereal, because if you didn't eat it that day, you missed out because that's all it was. So you learn to just do things that allows you to overcome that situation. And we knew a lot of people that were like that lived where we lived. So it didn't seem that uncommon. If you wanted, I know that if you wanted something from the store, candy or something like that, we didn't have uh, parents that would say, "Hey, here's a couple of bucks, go to the store." We had to walk down the street to my grandmother's house, and we had to get their old pop bottles, which you could leave with back then you left a deposit on bottles. So if we wanted something, we had to go get those pop bottles, and we had to go to the store, and we had to get the refund, which I think was a nickel at that time per bottle. And that's how you bought your candy. And we got teased all the time. They called us the PBHs, the pop bottle hustlers. And we would come down the street, and you'd have a cart, one of those little red carts full of pop bottles. And pop bottles make a lot of noise. And they'd make fun of us, call us PBH, which didn't matter to us because, we were going to the store to get candy. But that was the poor cracking on the poor. We were poorer than poor. The poor people made fun of us because, they didn't have to hustle pop bottles to the store, but we did. And, from that, as I say, life happens for you. I learned to not give a damn what people think. It doesn't matter. My goal then was to get to the store and get candy under any means necessary. And that was one of the means that was afforded to us. So, it was either care what people say and not have candy, or don't care what people say and get your candy. Well, to me, it was more important to get my candy. So, we sustained the ridicule and the laughter and the pointing fingers and the calling us the PBHs, pop bottle hustlers, and all those things because it was important. It was more important for me personally to achieve the goal. And so I wake up every day, and in spite of what people say, like I say, they say it in good faith. I must reach my goal. I want to be financially secure. I want my kids to be financially secure. I want to build a fitness empire, and I want to be the best that ever did it. So I only know one way to go with that, and because I don't have someone that can come along and help me with deep pockets or banks that'll give me a loan or anything like that. So I've got to get up every day, and I've got to figure out how to accomplish this goal. And I think that came from the situation of growing up, waking up every day, figuring how you were going to eat or how you were going to do this or how you were going to do that in spite of the ridicule from people. So, that's what I learned to do, and that's what I do to this day. So, as I always, the message that I'm trying to get across, I've learned that it's not what you're running to. I'm running to something that's pretty substantial. It's what you're running from. I wake up every day and I run from the memory of the deaths that I've experienced and witnessed, the poorness, the hopelessness, the growing up roaches and rats and, and all those things. I'm running from that. Will I ever return to that? I highly doubt it. But just the memory of it makes you never want to do without, lack or having to move from a situation that you work so hard to get to. So I wake up every day and I work very, very hard. I get up at 5 in the morning, and I'm not back in bed till 12, 1 o'clock at night. And all the time is spent grinding, creating, trying to get ahead, trying to accomplish the goal. So I take it all in good meaning from people that say, "Hey, look, slow down, take it easy, take a break, take a vacation." But I only know 1 year right now. When these goals are met, maybe then I could take it easy. But for right now, I gotta go. I gotta do what I have to do. So that's my message for today. It's never what you're running to; it's what you're running from. And if you're a hard worker, never feel ashamed about it. Never feel like you have to apologize for it. You get up and you do what you have to do for you and your family to make it. So that's the point I'm making. That's the point I'm getting across. And until next time, be kind to each other, be positive, and it's your man, Sir Earl, signing out. Peace.